Well, thank you all for being here. This has been a long day for some of us. It's been 2 days, in fact. But the reason for this session was that we wanted to keep it towards the end as to sum up the kind of issues that have come up since the morning as to where is social media going and heading towards, what are the practices across the globe, especially in the region, and what holds for Pakistan, and what is Pakistan's likelihood of social media impacting accountability, citizen services, and the whole notion of governance. I think what really intrigued me that when I started to blog 5-6 years ago, and as I had my own personal website, and then I set up this thing called Lahore Nama blog. It's a group blog and it just updates things on Lahore. I was interested in Lahore's ancient history, civilization, art and culture. And then suddenly it also, because it was Lahore, so the political developments could not be ignored. So when Shehbaz Sharif was elected for the second time in 2008, so somebody, one of my colleagues there posted this thing saying, "Welcome to Punjab once again, Chief Minister." And within, I think, a day, we had like 10 comments of people saying, yes. I mean, 5 people saying, great, this is the best thing, and 5 people saying, oh, basically F off, why are you here? What did you do the last time? Blah, blah, blah. So I had to delete some of those comments because I didn't want to get into trouble. But gradually, over time, that is the most active page on Lahore Nama, other than the sex searches. But that's a given in Pakistan. I mean, that's a given across the globe. 70% of internet use is about porn viewing. So why should Pakistan be this? Absolutely. So, but every day there is a comment, there is a request. My school has no teacher. There is lack of water. The doctor is missing from the hospital. The sanitary worker is not on the streets of Lahore or some other part of Punjab. And then they're asking, can we get CM's email? Can I get his email? And I'm like, well, so I actually did search. I said, okay, let's help these few people. And I found out that there was no email address for the Chief Minister. And there was an official address, which apparently the emails bounced back because it was an old one. Then they wanted a directory of emails for the key civil servants, like the Chief Secretary, the head of Lahore Development Authority, the head of Water and Sanitation Agency, because people's daily lives are completely, affected by these inefficiency of services. And so I just realized that, here was this blog completely not devoted to citizens or governance or public services or accountability, but it had that potential. And that, I suppose, was also the time when the lawyers movement had taken off and there was all this anti-Musharraf blogging going on and the use of social media, so it all fitted into the pattern. And earlier this year we have seen what happened in the Middle East, with the Middle East Spring, and this morning we heard the Egyptian blogger speak about how they all connected, how they defied the state bans and dictators to convene, to congregate, to mobilize, and how important these instruments were, i.e. the Facebook, the Twitter, and when the Twitter account services were blocked, they used proxy servers and they used other means to bypass that and spread the message. So I think there is definitely a very vibrant future of social media in Pakistan. In fact, 2 days ago, I was in Islamabad attending, or actually delivering a training seminar for civil servants on the use of social media. And so first of all, I said, what difference is it going to make? It'll be just another workshop where you go and some civil servants will hear you out and some won't and some will snooze. But actually there is a growing realization within the state as well. And Pakistan's state, which has, if you look at the Osama bin Laden issue, the on-ground tweeters or the Twitter community was actually generating and creating more news and opinions than the government of Pakistan for 3 days. The president just wrote an op-ed and became silent. The Prime Minister in his first address interview said, "Congratulations US, well done to kill the terrorists, blah blah blah." And then you had a third version by the Foreign Office briefing which said, "Oh my God, our sovereignty and honor has been compromised and the airspace has been violated, and all the Gharat's honor was taken out or hijacked or whatever." And then the fourth version appeared, where you had an FIR lodged in the Abbottabad police station, which had a completely different story. So from a very, very, this is an amazing case study, how the state's inability to cope with a changing information world and changing information contours is completely rendering it into a joke, unfortunately. And if you look at our history in South Asia, and in the late 19th century, South Asia, i.e. the Indian subcontinent, went through what we know as a communications revolution. Prior to the introduction of railways, there was no safe and reliable, accessible means to access different points of India. So in 1861, the rails were introduced. Then you had the postal and the telegraph systems. Then you had other forms of communication. And by the end of the 19th century, you actually had a communications system which mobilized people, which brought awareness, which connected the disparate parts of Indian subcontinent, and you saw the whole formation of the Indian nationalist movement around that time. And so there's a huge historical lesson. I think Pakistan is now at the anvil, or has actually entered a second moment. And I'm sure India and Bangladesh have also done that, but I'm now focusing more on Pakistan. I think we have also entered into the second moment of this information revolution, because we have been governed by a certain modus operandi. Again, the state that was formed in the late 19th century was a secretive, insular, disconnected, unaccountable state. We tried to hold it together, but it's now cracking up. Everywhere it is being eaten from the edges, whether it's Balochistan, parts of Karachi, Fata, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, you name it, South Punjab, it's not working. And I think one of the key reasons it is not likely to work is that you have in this country, never before, unprecedented connectivity, unprecedented traveling of news. You have 110 million mobile connections in Pakistan, and not all of them are in sync with the internet, and 3G is still in the process of being sorted out. But once it happens, as it is happening in our neighboring countries and the region as well, things are going to be totally different. Add to that 20 million active internet users. That's there's about 11% internet penetration in Pakistan, and mostly urban. And you add the third dynamic, which is that Pakistan is a fastly urbanizing country. The last census showed that about 35% of Pakistan was urban, but the definition of urban, unfortunately, comes from a 19th century definition of an urban. It has no connection with the reality. So unofficial estimates say about 45 to 50% of Pakistan is actually urban. So, and the final one, that never in our sort of contemporary history have we been such a young country. 65 to 70% of Pakistan is what comprises the youth. And Ali Zaidi is here, who's a youth activist, but not all youth are like him. Unfortunately, they are mostly Imran Khan followers and types. But anyway, no disrespect to them either, because I think they're doing a fascinating job as well. If Mr. Toru, Mr. Toru was Mr. Toru was doing Garmi Mein Kharab thing, he made news. I think that is the most fabulous thing. That Toru, this guy, I had not known him had he not made those remarks. How would I bring a revolution under such intense heat? so I think the impulse for change is there. And I think social media, if all goes as it is going, the forces of globalization cannot be stopped by Pakistani authorities. I mean, there's a deregulated media, there's a deregulated telecom sector, there is this whole rise of the internet and this unprecedented connectivity. It is going to lead to a changed Pakistan, and you have signs of it already happening. I think on the Twitter, so I've only been active on the Twitter since February of this year, and I'm sort of obsessed with it. But that's a malady, and I'll have to correct and undergo some form of therapy. But I have seen instances where notices have been taken. I mean, there are. Of course, not many Pakistani authorities are on Twitter, unfortunately, but those who are sort of cognizant of the fact that there are people out there attacking him. So when Mukhtar Amai's rapists were set free by the courts of our country, we all said, give her security. For 2 days, no security went her way. I think on day 3, ultimately, she did get some security. And she lives in a dangerous situation. She's a low caste, poor woman in a village full of videras and power brokers and power mongers. And I think these things now, if you were to multiply these things into hundreds and thousands, it's going to make a huge change. And let me just finish and then we
just one example, the judiciary movement.
Judiciary movement, exactly. I mean, precisely. Why did the lawyers' movement of 2007 in Pakistan became what it turned out to be? It started as a small movement of lawyers marching and defying the police to restore a judge who had been unfairly dismissed by a military dictator. Soon it turned out to be a movement for democracy, social justice, rule of law, inflation, economy, I mean, you name it. In a year's time, it was a panacea for every ill and problem in this country. And how? Because there was an electronic media, and when Musharraf did clamp down on the media itself, then the alternative media, or the new media, the blogosphere, became the mobilizer. I mean, I remember Emergency Times was a blog being taken out, and you had all the information on the protests, etc. There was another mail list server of which I was a part, very active. It was, I think, Emergency PK, and very, very active. It mobilized people everywhere, and I think great example. I mean, it's there. But I think what needs to be done with that is that it has to now enter into a more constructive phase where the state has to engage with it. And I think the good signs are, I don't know how far it will be carried through. I mean, in the morning I briefly mentioned that because I live in Lahore, I mean, the government of Punjab has started to actually take note of that. And there are 2 or 3 projects which have now commenced. One has to do with anti-corruption, so where people pay bribes, they have access to reporting it through SMS or through the internet. And already in a couple of districts, it is making a change. For education services, it has been started in the Punjab and has recently been launched in Sindh as well, where those schools where teachers do not come. And remember, in Pakistan, our issue is not about resources or not about this, that or the other. It is simply about teacher absenteeism. 60% of teachers in public schools don't go to schools to teach. So what do you do with those errant public servants? And the only way is that the citizens and parents have to report. They have to mobilize the authorities. They have to make them more accountable, because there's a general overarching lack of accountability in Pakistan. Even this incident of the Rangers shooting a young teenage kid is a clear indication. I mean, it happens every day. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry to report that just because the video has been displayed, one killing is going on, at least, I think more than one, either in Fata, either in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in Balochistan, where people are being...
even in the border areas of Sindh, this is exactly how they treat people.
Yeah, I think you reported that as well. I think, yeah. And it is a daily occurrence here. So just because the power of media is so influential, that here's a uniformed Rangers soldier killing an unarmed, defenseless, young guy without a trial, without any legal process, has generated this sort of public wave of anger and distrust. And what is the core issue is accountability. So I think moving from media into the new media or the social media, I think these calls for accountability will further deepen. And I think the state has to respond, and as I cited in the provincial governments, there are already efforts underway. Now, other examples are abound. I mean, South Korea, if you look at South Korea's very vibrant online community and very vibrant bloggers sort of presence has actually influenced politics. I mean, the present president of South Korea, I mean, became better known and was actually elected with a massive support of the internet users in South Korea. I know it sounds like a piece of fiction or magic realism, but actually it's true. I mean, in Japan's earthquake, which is a very recent occurrence, I think the kind of instruments that were used by Japanese all over the world and people in Japan to generate the funding and support and needs and supplies, I think it was spot on. Because of social media, aid was targeted, assistance was targeted, there was inefficiencies were minimized. I mean, in our neighboring country, which we love to hate here, India, I mean, efforts are underway as well. I mean, in Karnataka, one state in South India, I mean, almost all the public services are going online. I mean, I was in Kerala last December, another southern state, where 80% of public utilities and services can be accessed through line. If you want a driver's license, if you want an arms license, if you want a birth certificate, if you want, you don't have to go anywhere. You just apply online, and you get it in a due set time. Which is not to say that there's no corruption there. Of course, there's the police is terrible. The politicians are, unfortunately suck. But the issue is that there is a headway being made, and even in Delhi government, I mean, the automation pilots have been really successful. I think it is all in growing because what is happening is that more and more young people, more and more citizens are getting online, or they and because we shall be the last country to have a 3G interface. Others have moved ahead. The internet usage has spread on the mobile telephony across India now, and it's very cheap and very accessible as well. And I think once that happens, I mean, we'll truly be in a very transformational phase. So I think I would stop here and maybe resume later when we have a question and answer session. And I would request Nandita from Indonesia to speak about her experiences in managing and running online communities for improved governance and accountability and engaging with the state.
I'll tell some story about how we Indonesian people use social media to push the government and to do something good, to do some initiatives. So at the first time, I want to give you some random facts about Indonesia's social media landscape. That we have the second largest Facebook user in the world, and the third largest news producer after Raza Rumi USA. And you can find a complete report of Indonesia's social media landscape published by our company and that link. So by knowing this fact, so maybe you can understand why some people starting to create some online movement. And this social media in Indonesia is very vibrant. We can find more than 100 online communities all around the country. So the online community can meet by regional or specific platform or interest. These are some example of local popular online community. So, and I would like to give you some example how social media used to help disaster recovery. The main issue is to fill the hole where government can access. So this is one of the good example about how we run a campaign to help victims from earthquake in Mentawai. So maybe in the previous discussion, some of you have read this this case presented by Hani. So in October 2010, there was an earthquake in Mentawai. The Mentawai itself is islands about 60 kilometers from Sumatra, one of the big islands in Indonesia. It was 7.7 Richter in scale. More than 600 people died. It's not too far from the Sumatra, but we need to cross the Indian Ocean to reach the place. About 2 weeks, just 2 weeks before the earthquake was happened, I've traveled to Mentawai, and I need about more than 20 hours just to reach the Mentawai from Sumatra. 20 hours on ship just to reach about 60 kilometers. So the fact can explain to you how the Mentawai is kind of isolated from the main island. The normal time we need is about more than 10 hours, but in particular situation we need more than that. So Save Mentawai is an online initiative started by Green Music Info. It's a private company in Jakarta. So what we do is to send some online bloggers from Jakarta and also the West Sumatra province, the nearest province to Mentawai, and they report the current situation on Mentawai through Twitter and ask people to send their donation. We also create some posts in several cities in Indonesia, so people in other cities can send their donation as well. And this is one of the good example about social media use in disaster recovery. So we have this Jalin Merapi community. So it was formed after the Merapi eruption in October 2010. More than 200 people died, and we have more than actually it's more than 65,000 people need to be evacuated from their place. So similar to Save Mentawai, what we do is to send people to send the nearest onliners to report the current situation on social media. So it leads to some donation collected in some other places.